Hi, my name is Paul Davids, and in this video I'll share with you the truth about the CAGED system. But first, coffee. Okay, the CAGED system, often a thing that raises more questions than explaining things, and even more often, a topic of debate. But it's such an easy concept that there's absolutely no reason not to understand what it's about. And it also really helps if you've been following along with the music theory series I've been doing. Especially episode 1 is really useful. So let's get to it. The CAGED system is not a new concept or a mysteriously new vision of the guitar. It's just a way to describe how the guitar works. It's just a way to label things that already exist. And I often hear people bashing the CAGED system for absolutely the wrong reasons. It's something like saying, gravity is such bull. So CAGED really helps you visualize how chords and scales present themselves on the guitar. It's just a combination with how music works, how chords are built, and how the guitar is tuned. And the real power of CAGED is that you can link it to chords, to scales, to arpeggios, and combine them all. People always try to label and categorize things. It's in our nature, and CAGED is a way to label the chords played on the neck into 5 different shapes: C, A, G, E, and D. Hence the word CAGED. They spell out a word. Super handy, super trendy, super easy to name it. But it's really not that important to give it a name, because I was already using this system long before I even knew it was called CAGED. But yeah, you can use these shapes to play around freely on the entire neck of the guitar. But why do you want that? Freedom. It really unlocks the fretboard, as they say, and makes the guitar a more transparent instrument. And each shape has its own benefits on the places on the neck, and opens up different things you can do with it. And of course you can play all these chords in much more ways than just the 5, but to create some structure in that, these 5 are really helpful. So here we go. The most important thing you should understand is that you can move open chord shapes all the way up the neck. And if you understand how to do that, it's very easy. So the first step you need to take is to figure out the root note of the chord. So we're going to start with shape 4, which is the 4th letter of CAGED, is an E, C-A-G-E. So we're going to play an E chord. So this is an E shape and an E chord. We're going to use the shape to play different chords. So we're going to move this shape up the neck. So we're going to determine where the root note of this chord is, and it's the 6th string. That note is an E. So if we want to move this chord up, we see that some strings aren't moving up. They are the open strings. But all strings need to be moved up. So if we moved up this chord, let's say 3 frets, from here to here, we're not moving the open strings. So we need to play the chord without our index finger. So our index finger can help us move the open strings up as well. So let's move this one up. Let's say first 1 fret. The open strings become fret 1. So our index finger needs to bar the first fret, accommodating for the open strings. So the open strings are found on the E, the high E, the B, and the low E string. So I'm fretting these strings with my index finger. But we want it to go to fret 3, which is all the way up here. So now we're playing an E-shaped chord. But the chord we're playing, we can name that on the basis of the root note, which was, as we just discovered, on the 6th string of the chord. So the note I'm playing is a G, fret 3 on the low E string. So it's very important that you know the notes of the neck if you want to use this technique. You can learn that by checking out my video, The Most Essential Thing When Learning Music Theory. So you can name the notes. And I'm sure everyone is familiar with bar chords. Maybe you can't play them, but you've seen them, I'm sure. So if you're playing bar chords, you're using the CAGED system already. So you can move this chord everywhere you like and just name the note, and then you're playing that chord. So let's say we're going to fret 10. Now we're playing a D chord because this note is a D. Fret 7, a B major chord. And you can basically do that on every fret of the neck you like. Okay, but now do it with a different chord shape. Let's start with the first, the C shape. So first we have to determine the place of the root note. For the C shape, the root note is on the 5th string. that is the root note of the chord. So that note determines what chord we're playing. So if you move this shape up, let's say a whole step to fret 5, again we're missing the open strings. They are left behind. They didn't move up 2 frets. So we need to play this chord, but now without our index finger. So we're gonna move this shape up to fret 5, and our index finger is then barring the 1st and the 3rd string, the high E and the G string, because that were the open strings of the C chord. And now we're playing, what chord is this? Well, we need to find the root note again, which is still on the 5th string. So for this shape it's always on the 5th string, so you don't have to think about it. It's fret 5, which is a D note. So you can think of it in 2 ways, or you can say we move the C chord up 2 semitones, or a whole tone, so C to D, it's one tone up. Or you can just check out what chord this is we're playing, and that is always referenced to the root note, the D. So if you move it up another 3 semitones, to fret 8 for example, now we play an F chord. So I can imagine this shape is a little bit difficult for you at first, but it's really one of my favorite shapes to play nowadays. It's really easy if you get the hang of it. And one thing I'd like to do is to change the shape just a little bit to make it more playable. I almost never play the 1st string with this shape, so just the middle 4 strings. So you don't need to bar anything, it's just 5, 4, 2 and 3. It's a really convenient shape for your hand. It's just, it almost flows with the curve of your hand. So you just have to tilt your hand a little bit and preferably hold your thumb on the neck. So you should always have the freedom to change these shapes up a little bit. They aren't fixed shapes. You can always alter them to your liking. So if the shape you moved up is a little bit too difficult to play, just omit a few strings. That's no problem. So this is a chord shape which features in the song Snow Hey Ho, for example. Is it Snow Hey Ho or Hey Ho? The 2nd chord shape and the 4th chord shape. Alright, lovely. So that was the C shape. The next letter from the CAGED word is an A. So we're taking a look at the A chord, the open A chord. Just play it without your index finger at first, that's most handy. Now we can move it up, let's say 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. Now our index finger needs to accommodate for the open strings, which is the 5th string and the 1st string. And the root note of the A chord is at string 5 again, the same as the C shape, which is an A at the A chord. So now we move it up to fret 3. Now our root note is still at string 5, fret number 3, and we know that that note is a C. So now we play a C chord. So this is the same chord as that one, but it sounds differently because it's a different shape. Okay, now to the G shape. This one is a little bit different. There are many ways to play an open G, like this, or this for example. If you want to move this shape up, I suggest you play the chord without your index finger at first, like this. And now we have to determine the root note. Well, of course, the root note of the G chord is at string 6. That is the root note. So if we want to move this up to, let's say, an A chord, from G to A is 2 steps, 2 semitones. So we need to move it up 2 frets. Roep. De f is daar aan timmeren? So we need to move it up for 2 frets. So from fret 3 to fret 5. Now our index finger needs to accommodate for the open strings, the B, the G and the D string. And this is a very uncomfortable shape. It's not really undoable, but I never saw someone play this chord like this. Myself, I never played it before in a song. So what can you do with this shape? You can do multiple things, but my favorite is to just play the root note with your pinky, so fret 5, and bar your index finger on the D, the G and the B string. This is a real cool chord shape. This is just an A chord, and you can move it up everywhere you like. Another thing you could do is to play the bottom, the top 4 strings, so the E, So now we don't play the root note, but 9 out of 10 times, that's not a problem. Or you can play the middle 4 strings, or like this. So the G shape is a good example of how it can help you visualize certain things. You don't have to play the G shape like this. Even so, I suggest you don't play it like this. But it can help you visualize where the notes of the chords are, for example. So the A chord, these are all notes from the A chord. Which one do you want to play? Well, you can choose any of those. Cool, that's very cool to know if you want to make an interesting guitar part, for example. So the next shape is an E shape, we already discussed. And the last shape of those is a D. So the D shape is a little bit the same as the G, because playing the shape one-on-one isn't that comfortable. So let's say we want to play an F chord, we need to move it up 3 semitones. So 1, 2, 3. We need to move the open string up as well. So the open D string becomes an F. So this is a real useless shape. It's really uncomfortable. So, but you can just use the top 3 strings, for example. It's a real cool way to make your chords a little bit different than what you would usually expect. So another cool thing, let's play the C chord in these 5 different shapes, and you see that they are all linked together with common notes. So all the shapes I was playing had one note from the previous shape, and the order of the shapes is C, A, G, E, D, CAGED. So basically we're just playing the same chord in 5 different ways. Let's take a look. C, C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, the D shape, and again the C shape, and again the A shape, and again the G shape. Okay. So the C chord can be played at any spot of the fretboard you like. And the shapes all have notes in common. So the C shape has the root note in common with the A shape. And the A shape has those 3 notes in common, the bar notes, 5, 5 and 5 on the D, G and B string. And then the common notes from the G to the E is the root note again. And then we've got this note, the octave of the C, which is the same note as the first from the D shape. And now the top 3 strings are the same as the notes from the C shape. So understanding that all these shapes are linked together, they just form one big chord basically. That's really where you can start making your own shapes, for example. So now let's make some music with it. I got a chord progression C and F, and I'm gonna play it on the entire neck. Right, so you see I was moving up, but I was only playing a C and an F chord. Only those chords. So I played a C like this and an F like this. Now I moved up, C like this. Then I played an F, a D shape, but I was making a major 7 chord out of it. Which is a real cool chord if you want to play the D shape. So it's fret 3 and then 5, 5 and 5. So you can play these on the 1st or the 4th chord of the key, a major 7. Then I moved up to the G shape of C, and then to the F, C shape of F. So when I'm playing these chords, I'm definitely not thinking E shape, C shape, A shape, but I just know it's a major shape of the chord I'm looking for. The names are just for those who want to learn the shapes. As a reminder. It's the same with spelling, for example. At first you have to learn the rules in order to make it come out quickly and naturally. Now to the E shape of C and the A shape of F. And now to the D shape of C, but again a D major 7 shape. So we have a C major 7 chord, because this chord is just not very fun to play. That's why I'm taking the freedom to make it into a C major 7 chord. And then the G shape of F, and then back to our C shape of C, and our E shape of F. So I understand the last minute was a little bit fast if you're not comfortable using these shapes, but that's not a problem. So if you're absolutely new to this, you shouldn't learn all these shapes just at once. It doesn't work. You should learn them one by one and really incorporate them into your playing. So maybe you already know the E and the A shape. Now it's a good point to start using the C shape as well. The key is really finding these shapes a logical thing to play when you're playing a chord progression. And the next thing could be adding scales to the chords, linking the chord shape to a scale shape. For example, if you play an F chord over here, this chord is really well suited for adding, let's say, a major pentatonic to the scale. So if we've got this progression, C and F, let's just play the chords a little bit. And now I'm gonna add the scale, so C. You can use these shapes to play some more melodic lines as well. So if you're soloing, for example, and you know the chord progressions you're playing over, some of these shapes can really help you target out the notes you want to be playing over that chord. All in all, it's a very useful and helpful tool to make you a better guitar player and help you understand the guitar better. And the more I talk about this stuff, the more I realize that everything is connected. Everything you know makes what you are as a player. So just learning the CAGED system without anything else is pretty useless. And just learning music theory without any practical knowledge doesn't get you far either. Just learning a skill without any knowledge when to use it doesn't get you far too. So it's all these things you learn that make you a much better player. And this was about the CAGED system. So I hope you understand what it's about and how you can use it. And the biggest tip is to really just take it in slowly and use it into your playing. You can't learn it in one day. It just has to grow. You have to use it into your playing to become useful. So this was Paul Davids, and if you like what I do, please consider signing up to my Patreon page. And like this video, share this video, comment beneath this video, and see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.